So, hi everyone. Welcome to another podcast episode, another live Zoom meeting here. If you're listening to the podcast or you're watching on YouTube, you can find out more about our online community, these meetings, how we organize them, paid private mentoring with myself if it interests you on the website. It's www.acimwithkeith.com. All right, on with today's meeting. And um, during the week when I was having a think about what we might do, nothing came to me. So we did actually have a question in the group, and I thought it would make a great. I think it's a great question. I think it's an important question, and I want to deal with that as the subject of today's meeting. So here is the question. Hi, Keith. I have a question or a something because I'm confused. During my Course in Miracles group meeting, a person brought up the damage that is happening in the Middle East. They thought it out for discussion, I thought. I think that should be brought it out for discussion, I thought. So I said, when I see something like this, the first thing I do is say, I don't know what anything is for, followed by, let this be exactly as it is. After that, someone else said that one should not use language like that when someone is suffering. I don't understand what I did wrong here. What would have been a better way to handle or say this? Okay, so I think that's a great question. And that's what we're going to dive into now. And let us go to the Blue Book itself. This is lesson 79. Problem cannot be solved if you do not know what it is. Even if it is really solved already, you will still have the problem because you will not recognize that it has been solved. This is the situation of the world. The problem of separation, which is really the only problem, has already been solved. Yet the solution is not recognized because the problem is not recognized. Everyone in this world seems to have their own special problems, yet they are all the same. And they must be recognized as one if the one solution that solves them all is to be accepted. Who can see that a problem has been solved if he thinks the problem is something else? Even if he's given the answer, he cannot see its relevance. So that's lesson 79. So A Course in Miracles tells us there's only one problem. There's only one problem. No matter how many problems you think you have, and no matter how different you think that they are, the problem is you believe in the one, the separate one, that has problems. And that one, the one that can have problems, doesn't exist. It is an illusion based on identification with thoughts. Because you are not separate. There is no such thing as a separate self. It doesn't exist. Being separate, the idea of self and other, is the tiny mad idea. It is not so. So the answer to all the problems you think you have is to change your mind about what you are. All your pain comes from perceiving yourself as separate. That is the cause of all pain. Of course, says the one temptation is to perceive yourself as a self that you are not, a separate self, a body identity that stands impossibly apart from the whole. In judgment of it, it's victim. And the whole thing's made up. That's not what you are. Not even in the dream. Not even in the dream, that's not what you are. All of that is an activity of thoughts in your mind. None of that's true. The separate self, the Course calls, well, it calls it the separated ego, but it also calls it the concept of the self. And it means that you are buying and identifying with the mind's stories about what you are. I am this kind of a body. I am that kind of a body. I'm a body that's been victimized in the past. I'm a body that did awful things in the past. I'm a body that's going to die in the future. I need to worry about that. I'm something that can be sick, something that can die, something that can be guilty. They're concepts, they're thoughts. That is a concept of the self. It is utter fiction. You are not a body. You are free. You are still as God created you. That also means the body's past isn't yours. The body's future isn't yours. The body's fate is not yours. And the only way you can perceive it as yours is with concepts, with thoughts, identification with thoughts. Is there any evidence the body is you without a thought that says it is? So you are not a separate self. That's not what you are. And the Course tells us that your one problem, the source of all your suffering, is what you are taking yourself to be. And this is the rescue mission of A Course in Miracles. It's an imaginary rescue mission because you're not in danger. Because you cannot change what you are as God created you. You can only misidentify with illusions and think you're something that doesn't exist. But you cannot change what you are. It doesn't matter how many thoughts you believe or identify with, you cannot change what you are. You can enter into the world of illusion, the ego's dead thought world, the world of concepts, and completely misperceive everything. But you cannot change what you are. You already are as God created you right now. That is a fact. Everything else is concepts, which are wrong, which are not true. So, what you are right now is pure, unconditioned awareness. That's what you are. That's what you are right now. You are that in which thoughts are happening, emotions are happening, and that out of which they are made, and that by which they are known, and that into which they all dissolve. That is what you are. But it is not just what you are. If it's just what you are, that's a new separate self. That's another self concept. What you are as unconditioned by thought, unviolated by thought, by concept, pure, pristine, untouched awareness is what everyone is with you already. When you believe thoughts and identify with them, you live in a private world, a virtual reality, the imaginary world of self and other. You misperceive yourself first, and then you misperceive everything. Everything. And the Course gives us a mechanism for stepping outside the dream of self and other, of body identity, to know the dreamer, to know that which is appearing as everything and unqualified and untouched by nothing. Should say qualified and touched by nothing. You are the substanceless substance of everything and everyone already. Everything else is a delusion caused by identifying with thoughts. It is not true. It's a private world you live in. It's different than everyone else's because none of them are true. Because there's only one mind here. There's only one self here. And you're it. Except there's no you. There's only the self. That is all. Course in Miracles is teaching us how to change what we take ourselves to be. That is the answer to every single apparent problem, is to change what you are taking yourself to be. But unless you know yourself to be the same thing as everyone else, it's another delusion. It's another concept. You're still in the thought world of me and you. Only what is true of everyone is the truth. So the Course gives a name for this, which is the miracle. The miracle is the means of stepping outside the dream, knowing yourself as the dreamer, looking back at the dream, and knowing the dreamer is the only truth of everything and everyone with you. So let's take a few more quotes. So this previous quote that we have dealt with, it says the problem of separation is already solved. Why is it already solved? Because there's only oneness. There is no separation. There are no separate selves. They don't exist. It's the tiny mad idea. It was solved the moment it seemed to happen. You can be deluded about what you are, but you cannot be separate. You cannot be a separate self. You can only misperceive yourself that way when you misidentify with thought. So if separate identity is the only problem, and if it's actually already solved because it's not true, it doesn't exist, it's not what you are, that means you have no problem. There is no you to have a problem. One problem. Okay, this is chapter 4, section 2, paragraph 6. It's, this is the ego's whole perception of other egos as real is only an attempt to convince itself that it is real. So the separate selves, the apparent, imaginary separate self that seems to come into being when you identify with thought, its whole perception of other separate selves as real is only an attempt to convince itself that it is real. A little earlier in that chapter, chapter 4, section 2 and paragraph 2, everyone makes an ego or a self for himself. So the Course is talking to you as awareness. Everyone makes an ego or a self for himself, a self-concept, a separate self-identity, a body identity, which is subject to enormous variation because of its instability. He also then makes an ego for everyone else he perceives, which is equally variable. All that's here is one awareness, appearing as everything and everyone without ever ceasing to be itself. One dreamer appearing as all the dream figures, and the only truth of every single dream figure is the dreamer. Awareness. Their interaction, this is the two imaginary separate selves. When awareness makes up a self, a me, and then must, having attacked itself, attack awareness everywhere to see it as separate selves. Their interaction, these imaginary things in your head, separate selves that aren't there, is a process that alters both because they were not made by or with the unalterable. They're just thoughts. It is important to realize that this alteration can and does occur as readily when the interaction takes place in the mind as when it involves physical proximity. Because the self you think you are, and the self you think I am, and the self you think everyone else is, they're all only in your mind. They're all only in your thoughts. You couldn't say one thing about what you are or what I am if you weren't identifying with thoughts. You need thoughts to fuel the illusion. And then you need to believe them and identify with them and treat them as if they're true. Thinking about another ego is as effective in changing relative perception as is physical interaction. There could be no better example that the ego, the separate self, is only an idea and not a fact. So we must understand the Course is giving us a way to keep correcting our perception of self and other, to undo the delusion of self and other, and to share one identity with all of our brothers. That's what the miracle is for. To share an identity with our brothers. That is the ultimate act of love here in the dream. To share one identity with your brother because there's not a hair's breadth between you. Not a hair's breadth between you. That's love. Love has no divisions in it, no separation in it. Love is one, never two. And having fixed our delusion of self and other and come home to the truth of both of us, there can be an expression of love through you instead of judgment and opposition. So in each instance, the Course is asking us to shift from fear to love, from separateness to unity, from separate self-identification to identification as awareness. The same thing everyone is with you. There is no you that is awareness. Awareness is what you are. When you misidentify with thoughts, you misperceive what you are. And you misperceive your brothers. That's the dream. The miracle is how we undo that, and we share an identity as awareness itself. The Course calls it the holy place where thoughts can enter not. They describe it as coming with wholly empty hands onto your God, with none of your thoughts, none of your ideas about what you are or I am. And without those ideas, we are the same. We are one. So lesson 55. I do not know what anything is for. To me, the purpose of everything is to prove that my illusions about myself. So remember, the first thing everyone does is they make a self up for themselves out of thoughts. They identify with a story of who they are, the innocent victim, good in an evil world, a holy ego, an unholy ego, whatever. They make up a story about who they are, and having done that, having attacked yourself with a story about who you are, you must attack everyone else with a story about who they are. So to me, The purpose of everything is to prove that my illusions about myself are real. It is for this purpose that I attempt to use everyone and everything, to prove I really am an ego. I really am a separate self. I really am special, either specially good or specially bad. It is for this that I believe the world is for, to confirm my separateness, my misidentification as an individual, as a separate self, as a separated ego. Therefore, I do not recognize its real purpose. And we know from A Course in Miracles the purpose of everything is forgiveness, which facilitates the miracle and an expression of love instead of judgment and opposition. The purpose I have given the world, which is to prove I am a me that's different to all the others. The purpose I have given to the world has led to a frightening picture of it. That this is a world of separate selves, egos, that I've made up. That there really are people being born and suffering and dying. That there really are people coming and going. There's no people coming and going. One self is appearing as all the comings and goings and utterly untouched by them. And you're it, except there's no you. This is what you are, the self that is all. Let me be open. Let me open my mind to the world's real purpose, forgiveness, leading to the miracle, which is stepping outside the dream of self and other and sharing an identity, and an extension of love, an expression of love instead of judgment and separateness. Let me open my mind to the world's real purpose by withdrawing the one I have given it to prove that I am a separate self, a me, and learning the truth about it. So chapter 31, section 7, paragraph 12. Whatever form temptation seems to take, it always but reflects a wish to be a self that you are not, the me, the separate self, the story built on a body, which is not you, but if you identify with it, you'll think it is. But you don't have a story, and neither does your brother. Course tells us the concept of the self has always been the great preoccupation of the world. What am I? What kind of a person am I? And everyone feels that he must find the answer to the miracle of himself. Salvation can be seen as nothing more than the escape from concepts. What you are can't think about itself. You are the unborn, the deathless, the pristine awareness, unconditioned by thought, the holy place where thoughts can enter not, which is everywhere. It's what you are. All temptation is to misidentify with thoughts, believe a story about who you are, and see everyone else as a story, as other, and not one. So each miracle is designed to correct our misperception of self and other, and to share an identity with our brothers. That is our one responsibility. Our one responsibility. Because everything that comes from this will be kind and compassionate and loving and guided. And it doesn't need to be planned. It will spring spontaneously from you sharing an identity with your brother. Behavior is automatic based on what you think you are, based on what you take yourself to be. So the one problem is that you are misperceiving yourself. And the world is the mirror where you see what you're taking yourself to be. Are you seeing everyone else as others? Are you seeing everyone else as bodies? Are you seeing everyone else with a story? Good stories and bad stories, worthy stories and unworthy stories. Do you have stories about your brothers out there? That's your mirror. What's it reflecting back at me? That I have a story about myself. I am deluded. I bought the mind's stories. I've identified with them. I have attacked myself, which cannot be marred or soiled by a story. This is the purpose of the world. It is the mirror wherein you see how you have first seen yourself. Remember, first, I make up a story about who I am. So now having attacked myself, I make up a story about everyone else. I attack them. We always attack ourselves first with a self concept. All right, let's take a few more quotes. So again, the course is saying there's only one problem. You're misperceiving yourself. You're seeing yourself as separate, different, special. That's an illusion. You couldn't do that unless you were mixing yourself up with thoughts, believing them, identifying with them, thinking they're you. That's the only mechanism for delusion. And so the answer is always to change your mind about what you are. And you will know when you've done it because everyone else is the same thing you are. And from that comes compassion, comes patience, comes an extension, an expression of love instead of attack and judgment. So your job is to remember what you are by not judging the world. Because the me, there's nothing to the me except judgment. That's all the me is. Seeking and resisting, grasping and grievances, desire and aversion, special love and special hate. I like this, I don't like that, this should be the case, this shouldn't be the case. That's all the me is. There is no me. That's an activity of thoughts. It has nothing to do with you. You are as God created you. You're not an ego. Your job is to remember who you are, which is the same thing your brother is. But you cannot remember what you are if there's judgment, because what you are cannot judge. The right mind cannot judge. It cannot pose. It can only accept. And you already are that which cannot judge, cannot oppose, can only accept. You already are that. Now you can identify with thoughts and think they're you and that there's a you that's thinking them, which is capable of judgment. That's all made up. None of that's true. That's a delusion. That's a dream. That's not true. The one who judges is only a thought. It's a self concept. It's just a thought. It's only an idea and not a fact at all. The Course says you've been asked not to judge. This is not to take a right off you. You cannot judge. You can only believe the ego's judgments, all of which are false. What's the ego? The insane voice talking to itself in your mind, judging everything and everyone. That's not you. That's a wild illusion, frantic and distraught with no reality whatsoever. Those judgments aren't yours because you cannot judge. You can't. You can only believe those thoughts are you. Identify with them, believe them, take them seriously, treat them like truth. That's all you can do. And then you can be deluded that you're a thing that judges, but there's nothing that judges. The ego doesn't exist. It's just thoughts. So every miracle invites you to the ultimate act of love, which is to share an identity with your brother. You share an identity with your brother. So awareness cannot oppose, it cannot judge, and it cannot suffer. Cannot suffer. Which means the self that you share with me, with all your brothers, cannot suffer. Only the imaginary separate self you think you are seems to suffer. But you cannot suffer. What you are cannot suffer. I'm a son of God. His son can suffer nothing, and I'm a son. The thing you think you are, when you indulge thoughts, seems to suffer. But the thing that suffers is not real. The Course tells us what suffers is not part of me. What grieves is not myself. What dies was never living in reality and but mocks the truth of me. What is in pain is but illusion in my mind. The one who suffers is an illusion. So the one problem is to identify as the imaginary one who suffers and see all your brothers like yourself. And the miracle reverses that. To know the truth of all the world, the light of the world, the one self, the self that is all. To hold that in your awareness for all the world. That's miracle mindedness. To not self and other. And from that can come an extension and expression of love. This is love. Shared identity is love. But at the level of form, at the level of the dream, there can be an extension of this love. The extension of this love is food for the hungry, shelter for the homeless, empathy and compassion for the suffering. And that's effortless. It flows automatically from shared identity. How could you not have compassion if your brother is the same self you are? If you are one? Okay, this is from chapter 16, paragraph 1. Sorry, section 1, paragraph 1. To empathize does not mean to join in suffering, for that is what you must refuse to understand. That is the ego's interpretation of empathy, and is always used to form a special relationship in which the suffering is shared. You're a victimized self. Do you know something? I'm a victimized self as well. We're not the same. We're different selves. I'm a me. You're a you. See? And I'm an innocent victim like you. And I'm going to support you as an innocent victim. I'm going to feel sorry for you, your terrible circumstances, the stuff that you've been through. I'm going to suffer for you because that's how I, as an ego, think love goes. The capacity to empathize is very useful to the Holy Spirit. Note that. The Course is telling you false empathy is out. That's how you damn yourself as an ego, and your brother is one with you. That is how you keep both of you in pain and suffering. But the Course is also saying the capacity to empathize is very useful to the Holy Spirit. This is real empathy, where you identify with the Christ in your brother, which is the same Christ you are, and you're not sympathizing with the ego in your brother because you think you're one. So the capacity to empathize is very useful to the Holy Spirit, provided you let him use it in his way. His way is very different. He does not understand suffering and would have you teach that suffering is not understandable. When he relates through you, he does not relate through your ego, your imaginary separate self, to another ego, separate self. He does not join in pain. Understanding that healing pain is not accomplished by delusional attempts to enter into it and lighten it by sharing the delusion. So this is a very important point. Suffering is an illusion. It's an illusion. So the next question is, well, what causes the delusion? What is the reason for the perception of suffering, even if it's untrue? What is the cause of it? The fact is, your brothers are perceiving themselves as suffering, just like you can perceive yourself as suffering. None of it's true, but there is the perception of it because of one problem. So what's that? It's from the manual, question 17, paragraph 4. Perhaps it will be helpful to remember that no one can be angry at a fact. It is always an interpretation that gives rise to negative emotions, regardless of their seeming justification by what appears as facts. Regardless, too, of the intensity of the anger that is aroused, it may be merely slight irritation, perhaps too mild to even be clearly recognized. Or it may also take the form of intense rage, accompanied by thoughts of violence, fantasied, or apparently acted out. It does not matter. All of these reactions are the same. They obscure the truth. Interpretation obscures the truth. Judgment obscures the truth. Grievance obscures the truth. And this can never be a matter of degree. Either truth is apparent or it is not. It cannot be partially recognized. Who is unaware of truth must look upon illusions. The only cause of suffering is the belief it should not be this. That's it. That's it. Horse is saying the exact same thing as Sailor Bob Adamson was famous for saying. Could there ever be a problem in this moment if you don't think about it? No, no. Workbook lesson number one. Nothing I see means anything at all. It's just what's apparently happening. It has no story. It has no story. There is no interpretation of it. Nothing I see means anything at all. It is just what's happening in a dream. But it doesn't have a story. It doesn't have a story. The story is your delusion. And your story is the source of your suffering. No one can be angry at a fact. The fact is, the body is ill. Can that be a problem if I don't think about it? Or is it just the way things are, requiring a response? No suffering. No suffering. Only opposition. Only grievance. Only the belief I know what everything is for. And this is not right. It shouldn't be the case. That's suffering. The body is old. Can that be a problem if I don't think about it? That's the fact. The fact is the body's old. Can that be a problem if I don't think about it? If I don't have a grievance with it? If I'm not going, no, this is not fair. It's not what I am. It shouldn't be like this. It's not right. People don't understand. The fact is, the body has a month left to live. Can that be a problem if I don't think about it? Can there be suffering? No. Suffering is not in the perceptual facts of the dream, it is in the story. And the root of all suffering is it should not be like this. This is not right. This is not fair. This is not how it should be. It should be different than this. That's suffering. That's what it is. So this is from lesson 90. Let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. Let me realize today that the problem is always some form of grievance that I would cherish. It's the problem. Problem is not the condition of the body. The problem is not the body's age. The problem is not when the body will die. The problem is not what people are doing. The problem is not the past. The problem is that I have a grievance with some of that. I think it shouldn't be like that. I think there's wrongness. Let me also understand that the solution is always a miracle with which I let the grievance be replaced. The fact is, there's pain in the body. Suffering is because I'm not forgiving it. I'm resisting it. I feel like a victim of it. It's not right. It's not the way it should be. It's not fair. Why me? This is wrong. I deserve better. So the fact is there's pain. That's a fact. The suffering is coming from a grievance, not the pain, not the emotional pain, not the physical pain. There can be physical or emotional pain, but not suffering, not unhappiness. That needs a story. That needs an interpretation. There has to be a grievance with what is before there is suffering. Otherwise, suffering is impossible. Let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. So my problem is not what's happening in the world, it's my grievance with it. It's my story about it. It's my interpretation of it. Let me realize today that the problem is always some form of grievance that I would cherish. Let me also understand that the solution is always a miracle with which I let the grievance be replaced. What does the Course call it when a grievance is replaced? Forgiveness. What if I let it be exactly as it is? What would be here? And forgiveness, of course, tells us only forgiveness offers miracles. What's the miracle? Stepping outside the dream of self and other. The end of misperceiving yourself and your brother both, and knowing what you both are as one. However briefly, it's the miracle. Sharing an identity. Today I would remember the simplicity of salvation by reinforcing the lesson that there's one problem and one solution. The problem is a grievance, not what's happening. Fact is, the body's getting crucified. That's not the problem. Oh, the problem would be it shouldn't be happening. This is not right. This is not fair. This is not how it should be. Something else should be here in this moment, not this. Today I would remember the simplicity of salvation by reinforcing the lesson that there's one problem and one solution. The problem is not the circumstances. The problem is my argument with the circumstances. The problem is a grievance. The solution is a miracle. and I invite the solution to come to me through my forgiveness of the grievance and my welcome of the miracle that takes its place. Now, the miracle is the shared identity that's possible with your brother. When you stop identifying with judgments, when you stop identifying with thoughts, when you drop the story the mind has made up about what you are and know your storylessness, now you know what your brother is with you because he's storyless too. And everything that comes from here will be an expression of love. You establish love the moment you share an identity. And everything that comes from this is an expression and an extension of love. So, lesson 110. Deep in your mind, the Holy Christ in you is waiting your acknowledgement as you. And you are lost and do not know yourself, while he is unacknowledged and unknown. You have a story about what you are, which veils from you the Christ that is the only truth of everyone with you. Storylessness, the unconditioned consciousness, the holy place where thoughts can't violate. Seek him today and find him. He will be your savior from all idols you have made. For when you find him, you will understand how worthless are your idols and how false the images which you believed you were. The image of the innocent victim, good in an evil world, bad in a good world. Whatever your story is, that's your images, that's thoughts. Nothing thoughts tell you is true because you don't have a story. The minute you entertain a narrative, a story about what you are, you've attacked the Christ in you. And you must attack Christ everywhere, having attacked yourself first. You cannot have an image of what you are. You can only be it. You can't think about it. Salvation is the escape from concepts. It's that simple. Drop all your stories about what you are. Now you know what all the world is with you. Today, we make a great advance to truth by letting idols go and opening our hands and hearts and minds to God today. Like lesson 189. Forget every thought you've ever had. Forget what you think you are. Forget what you think God is. Forget this world. Forget this course. All the concepts. And come with wholly empty hands onto your God. What is storylessness? Storylessness that's appearing as all the stories, but always itself. We will remember him throughout the day with thankful hearts and loving thoughts for all who meet with us today. For it is thus that we remember him, and we will say that we may be reminded of his Son, our holy self, the Christ in each of us. I am as God created me. Okay. Chapter 8, Section 8, Paragraph 5. Yet all loss, and we could also say suffering, comes only from your own misunderstanding. Loss of any kind is impossible. Loss of any kind is impossible. But when you look upon a brother as a physical entity, as a story. His power and glory are lost to you, and so are yours. Awareness is not aware of itself, within or without. It's lost to the mind's stories, dreams of self and other. You have attacked him, your brother, because you're seeing him as a story, as a body, as something with a past. You've attacked him, but you must have attacked yourself first. Do not see him this way for your own salvation, which must bring him his. Do not allow him to belittle himself in your mind, but give him freedom from his belief in littleness, and thus escape from yours. As part of you, he is holy. As part of me, you are. So this is the Holy Spirit speaking, saying there's just one light of the world. Your brother's not separate from you. Your brother is the same as you. It's a part of you. There's one self appearing as everything. There's no separate selves. It's only an idea, not a fact. It's really another way of saying, I, Holy Spirit, am the only truth of you and the only truth of all your brothers with you. Will you be an ego? Will you be a body and curse all your brothers to see them damned like yourself? Lesson 283. Father, I made an image of myself, and it is this I call the Son of God. I have a story. I have a thought. I have a past I identify with. I've made up a story about who I am, and it is this I call the Son of God. Yet as creation, as it always was, I'm just lost in the mind stories. Creation is untouched, pristine, pure awareness. For your creation is unchangeable. Let me not worship idols. Let me not worship my me, my specialness, my differentness. Let me not worship myself and other delusions made of thoughts. I am he my Father loves. My holiness remains the light of heaven and the love of God. Is not what is beloved of you secure? Is not the light of heaven infinite? Is not your Son my true identity? When you created everything that is, now are we one in shared identity with God our Father as our only source and everything created part of us because it's all one. And so we offer a blessing to all beings, uniting lovingly with all the world, which our forgiveness has made one with us. All right, let me get the sun out of my eyes and we'll come back to this. Here we go. It's a bit better. Um, okay. There's only one awareness. And God is constantly extending that awareness that He is. The Course calls it knowledge, oneness. God is constantly extending what God is in creation. And everything God creates is God. So there's only one capital S self. We can call it God, but God is just a word we have for love. God is but love, nothing but love. And therefore, so am I. One self, one will, one awareness. You already are that. Your whole separate self delusion is just thoughts. If those thoughts stop, if you stop believing them, it all goes away. All that's here is God. And this God, this love, this awareness is the truth of everything and everyone that you perceive. There is no self and other. So, lesson 303, your son is welcome, Father. This, the indivisible, the unblemished, the unborn, this storylessness, this, what I am without a story, and what all the world is with me. Your son is welcome, Father. He has come to save me from the evil self I made. He is the self that you have given me. He is but what I really am in truth. He is the son you love above all things. He is myself as you created me. It is not Christ that can be crucified. Safe in your arms, let me receive your son. God's son is indivisible. The forms the broken pieces seem to take, bodies, circumstances, situations, people, objects, the forms the broken pieces seem to take mean nothing, for the whole is in each one, the self that is all. Every brother you look upon is the self that is everything. Self that is God in creation as one self, one pure awareness. That's who your brother is and what you are too. Because there isn't really you and your brother. There is the one self appearing as the whole dream of multiplicity and still the one self. It's completely holographic. Every part you look at in the dream is that which is appearing as the whole dream, untouched by it. This awareness. It's not the Son of God unless it's true of everything you're looking at. You're still lost to the mind's dreams of self and other. You're still holding on to the stories about what you are and cursing the rest of the world with a story. Chapter 9, Section 4, Paragraph 1. Might sound familiar. Accept as true only what your brother is, if you would know yourself. Perceive what he is not, and you cannot know what you are, because you see him falsely. Remember always that your identity is shared, and that its sharing is its reality. So anything you think is your identity that's not the identity of all the world is an illusion. It's a bunch of thoughts in your mind that are hoodwinking you, causing you to believe a lie about what you are, your self-concept. So chapter 14, section 10, paragraph 12. Earlier, I said this course will teach you how to remember what you are, restoring to you your identity. The storyless one, the one you can't think about or talk about because it's the escape from concepts. Pure awareness, untouched by thought, untouched by concepts. We've already learned that this identity is shared. The miracle becomes the means of sharing it. This is love. There's not a single hair's breadth between you and me, between you and your brother. You are the same self. that you can't think about, cannot be soiled by a story, that cannot be identified with anything because it's free. The miracle becomes the means of sharing it, this identity. By supplying your identity wherever it is not recognized, you will recognize it. Oneself as the truth of everything and everyone. Chapter 13, Section 6, Paragraph 5. The miracle enables you to see your brother without his past. Storylessness. If your brother is awareness, if awareness is what your brother is, awareness has no story. It's aware of all stories, but storyless itself. The miracle enables you to see your brother without his past, no story, and so perceive him as born again. His errors all are past, and by perceiving him without them, you are releasing him. And since his past is yours, you share in his release. You are storylessness too. This is your job, to save two at once with every miracle. To see the truth of what your brother is, so you weaken his dream of me and also weaken your own. To share an identity, to step, even if it's only for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, for the duration of the miracle, to step outside your story, to let the delusion go, to undress from the concepts about yourself. Stand naked as you are created, with wholly empty hands, and know this is what your brother is with you. And there's no suffering here, because there's no story here. That's what a miracle is. You give salvation to yourself. You're not a story. And you give your salvation to your brother. He might think he's a story, but you refuse to share his dream. You see the truth of him. And that light of the truth in your mind can shine in his. And at the level of the world, there can be an expression and extension of love, which is automatic when you share an identity. You have to step outside your own story to know storylessness is the truth of your brother. And the way you do that is by letting your brother be exactly as he is, by dropping grievance, by dropping judgment. There's nothing to the egoic mind except judgments. Should be this, it shouldn't be this. I need to change it into this. It shouldn't have been that in the first place. I think it should be more like this. That's the egoic mind. It refuses to let all things be exactly as they are. But the moment you surrender, the moment you forgive, the moment you stop trying to change your brother and accept him exactly as he is, something is here that's not an ego. It's an awake nothing with no story. And it's the truth of both of you. And it's the truth of all the world. In this, the holy instant. This is what the miracle enables you to see. The first thing you have to do is drop grievance and judgment. What will be here in this moment if I let all things be exactly as they are? That's the mind out of business. That's the mind out of it. The mind wants to have a narrative. Nothing I say means anything at all. The mind wants to say, no, 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 it means this, it means that, it means the other, it should be like this, and it shouldn't be like this. The minute you let all things be exactly as they are, that's the mind out of business. It has no function. What am I when I let all things be exactly as they are? The world, thoughts, feelings, stories, memories. When I fight with nothing. When I'm not grasping or holding grievances with any of it. What's here when nothing is opposed? And that unveils the awake nothing. Everyone is with you. What is not a body, what is free, what is still as God created it. This awake nothing that's everything. This is what you're asked to share for your salvation and your brothers. The ark of salvation is entered two by two. Why? Because there's no such thing as a separate self. Your brother must be the same self you are, or you're still deluded. You're lost to the mind's fictional stories. Chapter 8, Section 3, Paragraph 4. When you meet anyone, remember it is a holy encounter. As you see him, you will see yourself. As you treat him, you will treat yourself. As you think of him, you will think of yourself. Never forget this, for in him you will find yourself or lose yourself. Whenever two sons of God meet, they are given another chance at salvation. What is salvation? Remembering what you are. How do I remember what I am? I drop grievance. Remember, the problem is a grievance. The answer is the miracle facilitated by forgiveness. Do not leave anyone without giving salvation to him and receiving it yourself. Do not leave anyone seeing him as a story, as other. Do not leave anyone seeing him as a body. Do not leave anyone without giving salvation to him and receiving it yourself. It's the same. It's the same. It's shared identity. It's storylessness. It's the awake nothing. For I am always there with you. This is the Holy Spirit speaking, and this is your right-minded self. The Holy Spirit is your right-minded self. The ego is your wrong-minded self. The separate self that doesn't exist. For I am always there with you in remembrance of you. Goal of the curriculum, regardless of the teacher you choose, is know thyself. There is nothing else to seek. You know what you are, you know what everyone is. Now you share salvation. You see the truth of everyone who can't see it yet for themselves. And you weaken the dream everywhere. Everyone is looking for himself and for the power and glory he thinks he has lost. Whenever you are with anyone, you have another opportunity to find them. Your power and glory are in him because they are yours. The ego tries to find them in yourself alone. because it does not know where to look. Your brother must be the same thing you are, or it's not what you are. It's the mind stories. It's a self-concept. The Holy Spirit teaches you that if you look only at yourself, you cannot find yourself. All you'd be looking at is an ego, a story of me. The Holy Spirit teaches you that if you look only at yourself, you cannot find yourself because that is not what you are, a separate self. You're not special. You're not different. You're not an individual. Whenever you are with a brother, you are learning what you are because you are teaching what you are. He will respond with either pain or joy, depending on which teacher you are following. He will be imprisoned or released according to your decision, and so will you. Never forget your responsibility to your brother, because it is your responsibility to yourself. Give him his place in the kingdom, and you will have yours. Because there's one place. So, chapter 10, section 3, paragraph 2. Heal your brothers simply by accepting God for them, the one self. Your minds are not separate, and God has only one channel for healing, the Holy Spirit, the right mind itself, because he has but one son. God's remaining communication link with all his children joins them together and them to him. To be aware of this is to heal them, because it is the awareness that no one is separate and no one is sick. Chapter 28, section 3, paragraph 2. No mind is sick until another mind agrees that they are separate, and thus it is their joint decision to be sick. Sickness is the belief in separateness and all the sin, guilt, fear, and suffering that comes with it. That's sickness. It's got nothing to do with bodies. Sickness is the belief that I'm a me and you're a you. Sickness is selfing and othering. And the way out is the miracle facilitated by forgiveness and the sharing of an identity. This is beautifully said in the next passage. This is from the manual, chapter 12, paragraph 6. Oneness and sickness cannot coexist. Oneness and sickness cannot coexist. How can I be healthy and you sick if we're the same self? I must have selfed and others. I must have made up an ego or a self for myself as a healthy ego, and now I'm making up an ego or a self for you and going, but you're a different self. You're the sick self. If oneness is true, anything I say about one is true of all. If I think I'm healthy and you're sick, I'm sick. If I think I'm alive and you're dead, I'm sick. If I think I'm young and you're old, I'm sick. because there's only one self here. Oneness and sickness cannot both be true. How can it be true if there's only one identity? Only fake identities are sick. Only the shadow figures in your private world are healthy and sick. There's no healthy and sick. There is the untouched, the unborn, the birthless and the deathless as the truth of everything and everyone. Storylessness. The awake nothing. That is everything. That reflects God. The escape from concepts. The unidentified mind. Oneness and sickness cannot coexist. God's teachers looked on dreams a while. It is a conscious choice, for they have learned that all choices are made consciously with full awareness of their consequences. The dream says otherwise. But who would put his faith in dreams once they are recognized for what they are? Awareness of dreaming is the real function of God's teachers. They watch the dream figures come and go, shift and change, suffer and die, but they're not deceived by what they see. They recognize that to behold a dream figure as sick and separate is no more real than to regard it as healthy and beautiful. Because there's no dream figures, there's one dreamer as the truth of all the dream figures, and the dreamer is ever untouched by the dream. Pure awareness, shining in your mind right now. They recognize that to behold a dream figure as sick and separate is no more real than to regard it as healthy and beautiful. Unity alone, oneness alone, non-duality alone. Unity alone is not a thing of dreams. And it is this God's teachers acknowledge as behind the dream, beyond all seeming, and yet surely theirs. Shared identity, the self that is all, the one you can't think about. Lesson 158. Christ's vision has one law. It does not look upon a body and mistake it for the Son whom God created. It beholds a light beyond the body, an idea beyond what can be touched, a purity undimmed by errors, pitiful mistakes, and fearful thoughts of guilt from dreams of sin. It sees no separation and looks on everyone, on every circumstance, all happenings and all events without the slightest fading of the light it sees, one self that is all. The storyless one, the indivisible one, quiet center that is everywhere. When truth has come, it harbors in its wings the gift of perfect constancy and love which does not falter in the face of pain but looks beyond it. Steadily ensure, here is the gift of healing. For the truth needs no defense, and therefore no attack is possible. Illusions can be brought to truth to be corrected, but the truth stands far beyond illusions and cannot be brought to them to turn them into truth. You cannot bring the storylessness of God's Son into stories. You cannot bring that which does not have a body into the world of bodies. All of these illusions are brought to awareness by forgiveness, by letting illusions be exactly as they are. And now we see that none of these illusions are the awareness that's aware of them. Lesson 268. What can frighten me when I let all things be exactly as they are? What was the problem? The problem is always, is it the circumstances of life? No. Is it the body's condition? No. Is it the amount of time the body has left? No. Is it what other people are doing? No. Is it the past? No. Is it the future? No. What's the problem? A grievance. The only suffering there is in grievance. So, lesson 268. What can frighten me when I let all things be exactly as they are? Let not our sight be blasphemous today, nor let our ears attend to lying tongues. Only reality is free of pain. Only reality is free of loss. Only reality is wholly safe. And it is this only we seek today. What's here in this moment when I let all things be exactly as they are? And this awake nothing, I remember it for all the world. I remember it for all the world. And that's love. That's reality. So let's go back to the original question. And we can see what happens when the ego, our ego, hears a spiritual concept. The ego immediately thinks, oh, this is what I do as a separate self. We read A Course in Miracles. We hear spiritual teachings. And we instantly go, oh, this is what I do as a separate self. This is what I, the body identity, do to become holy. This is the trap we'll always fall into. Course in Miracles is going, don't do anything as an ego. You're not an ego. Don't do anything as a separate self. You're not a separate self. Fix the only problem you have. Problem of separateness. Everything else happens automatically. How do I fix the problem of separateness? Forgiveness. The separate self is nothing but grievance. These are the good ones. These are the bad ones. They shouldn't have done that. They should have done this. That shouldn't have happened. That's not right. The world shouldn't be like this. The world should be different. Grievance. That's what the me is. So what's the antidote to the selfing and othering, to the me illusion? What would be here in this moment if I let all things be exactly as they are? Forgiveness. To be awake, nothing is unveiled again in my mind. The holy place thoughts can't violate. And this is what everyone is. That's the problem of separateness done for this miracle. Done. And now, whatever way I am meant to contribute towards all things working together for good will automatically happen through me. Sometimes there's nothing to be done, and sometimes there is. But I've chosen love. I've already expressed the greatest love I have for my brother by sharing an identity with him as storylessness. And if there's something I can contribute, that will be obvious. And if it doesn't, I've done my part. I chose love. I chose shared identity. I've weakened my own dream and my brother's. And if an extension of this love is required, it will be obvious and it'll get done through me. So let's go back to the original question. I have a question or something that I'm confused. In my Course in Miracles meeting, a person brought up the damage that's happening in the Middle East, and they brought it out for discussion. And I said something like this. The first thing I say is, I don't know what anything is for. See, that's correct. Followed by, I will let this be exactly as it is. Now, you see, this is the assumption that I, the separate self, go, I, the separate self, don't know what anything's for. And I, the separate self, I'm just going to let that be exactly as it is. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to let that be exactly as it is. That's separation. That's separation. So that's not what's being asked of us. You're being asked to know the truth of yourself and all the brothers. It's quite correct. You can't remember what you are until you're not judging. Because what you are can't judge. Awareness can't judge. Awareness can only accept. It can only accept. It can't have special love and special hate. It can't oppose. Spirit can only accept. And you are spirit. You cannot have spirit unveiled as your identity in your mind to share it with your brother until you're letting all things be exactly as they are. Doesn't mean you look away. You look back and see what you are as the truth of your brothers with you. That's love. You step out of your mind's lying stories about what you are to remember storylessness, the awake nothing that's everything, the I am. And you see beyond bodies, beyond the dream to the unity, the shared identity. And the holy instant, no one is special. For your personal needs, thoughts, intrude on no one to make your brothers seem different. Without the values from the past, thoughts, you would see them all the same and like yourself, and you would see no separation between them. That's our job. That's love. And one of the saddest ways that when the ego gets a hold of these ideas, so many times I've seen people in course groups go, I used to donate to charities, but I don't do that anymore because I'm making the error real. Once the ego gets a hold of spiritual teachings and turns them into a concept and something an ego does, everything's going to be a mess. Going to be a mess. There is something you can do for every brother you meet. You can see him as he really is and weaken your dream of me and his. And the means to that is forgiveness, leading to the miracle, which is the recognition of God's one Son everywhere I look. Shared identity. And then love may wish to express itself in the dream by me making a donation to a charity. But that was not born of judgment. It was not born of separateness. It was not born of the victim and the holy ego that's coming to their rescue. It was born of salvation. And the echo of that salvation in the dream could be donating to a charity, could be comforting someone who's dying. There is terrible, terrible suffering in the dream because there is no forgiveness, because all suffering is grievance. It's not real suffering, but it is perceived suffering. I can't, this is what the ego does. The ego will spend its whole day having a grievance with everything and everyone. And then someone else comes in and goes, I'm in terrible pain. I have this thing, chronic pain. And what will the holy ego do? They'll go, you have to not judge it. You have to accept it. You have to drop your grievance with it. This, the ego that's fought with everything for the whole day. Oh, it's very good at telling its brother. Your problem is the problem that you have a grievance. Your problem is your problem of forgiveness. That's the ego. Ego is an asshole. It's not an expression of love. So the first love that matters is shared identity. And then you let guidance tell you if there's something to do to show your brother that they're loved and understood and supported. Something kind, not beating them over the head with A Course in Miracles. All right. I want to finish. Kenneth Wapnick has written some truly beautiful stuff in his time, but there's one thing he wrote, which for me, hands down, is the most beautiful thing he's ever said. So I want to read that to you. It's from his commentary on the preface from the introduction to A Course in Miracles. Returning to God means awakening from the dream, and the miracle of forgiveness is the means. Seeing shared instead of separate interests, remembering what we are as one. It cannot be said often enough how essential it is that we be aware of our judgments. Instead of hearing people's calls for help and their pain, we choose to judge, attack, and find fault, clogging our ears so that we will not hear the cries of anguish. When we do allow ourselves to hear, we recognize that pain is in everyone, the good and the bad, the victims and the victimizers. This is what Christ's vision shows. And the Holy Spirit's voice tells us. Thus, we see and we hear people's calls for help, and our heart goes out to them all. A Course in Miracles leads us to this experience. So each day is shaped by Christ's vision. And so we do not empathize with the perceived agony of others, but touch their true pain with the gentle hands of forgiveness. Pain's source is the awareness, albeit unconscious, that we are in a world in which we know we do not belong, yet not knowing our true home. We know nothing but the body's rotting prison, symbolized by the car that heads full speed for the precipice, still fearful of the voice that explains how to prevent the inevitable. Specifically, Jesus teaches that the vehicle of death is stopped by seeing everyone in the car with us. And he pleads with us to overcome our resistance to his vision of all people calling out for the love they do not believe they deserve. If our spiritual practice does not lead to compassion, it's useless. But real compassion. Everyone in this world suffers when they don't know who they are. And what blocks their realization of who they are is grievance. And forgiveness sets us all free. And Jesus says it is the maximal service you can render to a brother, to hold the truth for him when he's temporarily unable to access it for himself. But to do that, you have to know what you are and then share that. And you cannot know what you are until you forgive, until you drop your grievances with your brother and the world and let all things be exactly as they are. And then the awake nothing is here, the storylessness, the freedom of God's Son. And you look back on the world and see this as the truth of all of it. And if there's something, if there's a way for this to echo in the dream, it will be obvious. All right, so Eli, it's Raoul and yourself with a question this week, so we shall deal with those two before we wrap up. So which way do you want to do it? So Raoul, you have the stage.
Hello, Keith. Thank you very much for the podcast. You can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So I have two questions if we have time. The first one is about lust. You mentioned that. And I'm wondering, can you elaborate on how lust relates to sexual addiction and using sex and drugs as a numbing distraction? And I'd also like to know about the effectiveness of urge surfing when you're in the midst of those types of temptations.
The Course tells us the other way is remaining quiet, even in the midst of the turmoil you may make. So, Raoul, in this very moment, the world is worlding, thoughts are thoughting, emotions are emoting. Ask yourself a question in this moment. What would be here in this moment if I let all that be exactly as it is? Don't try to let everything be exactly as it is. That will be the ego. That will be your self concept, your false self trying to be holy. Don't do that. I want you to ask a question in your mind and let reality answer you. What would be here in this moment if nothing was opposed? If all the doing stopped? If all the seeking stopped? What would be here if thoughts, feelings, stories, memories, sensations, the body, the world, what would be here? Ask for the answer and it will come, but not as words. What would be here in this moment if the fight stopped with all of it? If there was no fight with any of it? What would be here in this very moment if I let all that be what it is? If my attempts to understand stopped? If my attempts to seek and fix stopped? If my pushing and pulling on experience stopped? A miracle comes quietly into the mind that stops an instant and is still. Raoul, in this very moment, when there's a resting from seeking and a resting from doing and a resting from fixing and a resting from fighting and pushing and pulling and trying to turn something into something else, what would be here in this moment if the fight stopped? If you let all things be exactly as they are? What would be here? Have we lost you, Raoul?
I'm here. I didn't know that was an actual question.
Yeah.
I was trying to.
No, don't try and do anything. What if you
Okay.
were trying to do anything?
Okay.
But what if you let
Nothing.
what
There
if you
wouldn't be
let go of
nothing.
trying? What if you let go of trying? What if you let go of understanding? What if you let go of trying to turn something into something else? What if you let go of fixing? What if you let go, Raoul? What will be left here in the midst of everything?
There wouldn't be anything.
Correct. There would be no thing. But it's alive. It's awake. Pristine, shining, birthlessness and deathlessness. And it's what everything and everyone is with you. And when you know this, suffering is impossible. But when you go back to the pushing and pulling and the fixing and the seeking and the striving and the trying to understand and the thinking you're a broken self that needs to fix itself, that's suffering. It's only in the nothing that we're one. It's only in the silence that we're one.
So Keith, I'm prompted to kind of ask something else. I'm in a situation where I need to litigate against someone, and um, it's not something that I've wanted to do, but I've come to the conclusion that I have to. There is no other recourse. And so I want to be able to strike that balance between, as you say, uh, keeping that at the forefront of my awareness, uh, what would be here in this moment if I let all things be as they are.
Yeah.
Strike the balance between that and knowing that there are things that I need to do um,
Yeah, but you
to,
let that be exactly as it is.
okay,
No
but
one can be
you know,
angry at remember, no one can be angry at a fact. It's always an interpretation of a fact. Fact is, there are situations. The fact is, they require a response. The fact is, I've realized the only response is litigation. Those are facts. They don't need a story, Raoul. They don't need a story. Nothing I see means anything at all. It's still there. It just doesn't mean anything. It doesn't have a story. It's just what's happening. It's just what is in this moment. And it has no story. These thoughts in my mind, the stories about what's happening in the world, they don't mean anything. Yes, they're happening. They don't mean anything. I don't need a story about it. Raoul, what would be here in this moment if you had no story about any facts? What would be in your mind right now if you weren't telling yourself stories about anything?
nothing,
And are you separate from that nothing?
no,
And is there anything wrong with the nothing? Is there any pain here? Any suffering here? Any fear here?
no, it's just something very, very foreign, very foreign.
No, Raoul, that's what you are. It seems foreign to yourself because you've been asleep, believing thoughts and identifying with them and thinking you're something that doesn't exist and seeing all your brothers the same way. But it's not foreign. That's what's foreign. This isn't an altered experience. This isn't an altered state of consciousness. You've been in an altered state of consciousness, thinking you're separate. But this, the awake nothing, the indivisible, the storylessness, that is everything and everything is. This which unites all things into themselves, this isn't foreign. This is what you are. But it's not just what you are, it's what everyone is with you, and all is well. And whatever stories your mind is telling you about that, they're just stories. They're not true. Trust this, the indivisible, the holy place where thoughts can enter not, over anything a thought ever tells you. And share it with your brothers. Salvation. You can go about litigation without hating anyone. The same awareness that's appearing as your brother, doing what was right in his private world, is appearing as you, doing what you think is right in your private world. So the first thing you do is you understand, you let your brother do what your brother's doing. You don't judge him. And now you get to respond. If the only response available is litigation, then that's the response. But it's not born of judgment. It's not born of hatred. And it's not born of my brother shouldn't be doing that. My brother is doing what he thinks is right in his world. But now that I've not judged him, I'm going to do what feels right to me in my world. But no one gets hated and no one is separate. You don't have to hate anyone. You don't have to believe, no, it shouldn't be like this. You can let all things be exactly as they are, and then you can let yourself be moved to do what's the situation requires. But you don't have to see anyone as separate. You don't have to see anyone as wrong. Is that okay?
Yes.
Cool. Thanks, Raoul. Eli,
Um,
what did you want to say?
um, okay.
Okay, Raoul, what was?
Yeah. So Keith, I think that dovetailed into my second question if we have time. If not, that's fine. I can ask you the next time around.
Okay, let's hear it.
Um, so when you spoke of shared identity,
That's the
um,
nothing. That's the awake nothing, Raoul. That's shared
sorry,
identity.
sorry.
That's the awake nothing. That's everything. That's shared identity.
Okay, so you
When I
basically
said to
answered.
you, what would be here in your mind? And you said
Okay.
nothing. And I says, are you separate from the nothing? And you said no. You are an awake nothing that's everything that you can't think about because it's the escape from concept. And so is everyone with you. That is salvation. That is shared identity. Everything else is a delusion made of thoughts. There
So
is no
just
self.
so
Just this as the truth of everyone.
so just so I understand, when you say that the shared identity is with my brother is a lack of a story.
Yeah, it's your brother without a past. And your brother without a past is you without a past. It's the same.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Um,
Thoughts are lies, Raoul.
yeah.
Every thought is a lie. And you have a choice. You can believe them. You can identify with them and treat them like they're true. And you'll suffer and contribute towards suffering everywhere in the world. Or you can let them go and be free. Because you are free. Only your identification with thoughts is veiling that from you. And if you're hopelessly addicted and lost to thoughts, the only thing you can do is let that be exactly as it is. Only that will let the awake nothing come in and teach you what you are. You can, the other way is remaining quiet even in the midst of the turmoil you make. So even as the thoughts rave, even as they tempt you, even as you're chasing them and going after them and believing them and living in your private imaginary hell, what will be here in my mind if I let all that be exactly as it is? What would be here if I had no fight with the way this moment is appearing? Peace is here. The awake nothing. Salvation is here in the midst of the mess. In the midst of the mess. Salvation doesn't come from fixing things. Salvation comes from acceptance, forgiveness, letting all things be exactly as they are, because that's the only peace you'll ever know. Everything else is shadows, echoes, illusions. All right, Ro.
Thank you very much, Keith.
My pleasure. Eli, what's your swan song?
I just hopefully this will come across properly. But way back in the beginning, you said unhappiness needs a story, which of course I get it. But then, so I'm trying to say that happiness does not, except I'm talking true happiness. I'm not talking when Eli gets a new wig and oh my God, she's so happy. Look at the new wig. It's so much fun. That's not what I consider true happiness. And so, because true happiness doesn't need a story. It's just, I don't know, because I'm filled with this happiness that just is.
Yeah, true
It's
happiness
like
is
my
the
gratitude.
absence.
It's there.
It's the absence of grievance. It's here the minute I drop my fight with everything. And it's shared identity. In my defenselessness, my safety lies. That doesn't mean I become defenseless in order to find a magic safety for the body. It means if I'm defenseless against everything, the thoughts, the feelings, the stories, the memories, the bodies, the sensations, the circumstances, if I'm defenseless against everything, the awake nothing is here. The light of the world, that which is everything, is here. And there's nothing to want.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's nothing to want.
exactly.
Now, we all are still undoing our guilt, which means we will get afraid of staying here and we'll go back into thoughts and we'll make up an identity for ourselves and we'll go out and we'll curse the whole world by making up an identity for it and separating left, right, and center. But we have the miracle to get us back. And the means of the miracle is forgiveness. What would be here in this moment if I let all things be exactly as they are? Not so I can dismiss my brothers, not so I can turn my back on their suffering, not so I can, distract myself and not look at the world. No, 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 no. What will be here if I let all things be exactly as they are? What will be here if I forgive? What will be here if my fight with experience ended? Now I look back at the world and I bless it by seeing it as it is.
What I'm finding
Yeah,
when I just let everything be what it is, like whatever this body's going through, fine. I just
yeah,
let it all be, and all I can feel and see is love, no matter what I look. And I
yeah.
know that this computer is not love, but it is a reflection of.
Everything is love.
Yeah,
Everything is love. It actually is love because there's nothing else.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Rings and necklaces and coins and trophies are appearances of gold. There is nothing to them except gold. They're merely an appearance of gold. But rings and necklaces and coins and trophies have nothing to do with what gold is. Gold is only itself, no matter what it's appearing as. Everything is love, because God is but love, and therefore so am I. That is what's true. And everything around you and all your brothers are appearances of gold. And gold is never touched by appearances. So everything is love. So that's beautifully, Eli. The computer is love.
Yes,
But love isn't a computer.
exactly.
Love transcends everything, but that which is all encompassing has no opposite. Love, first of all, transcends everything. It stands apart from everything and then encompasses everything. There's nothing to anything except it. Yeah. Thanks, Eli.
Okay, you're welcome. You bring tears to my eyes. Thank you.
Oh, thanks so much for your attention, guys. I hope you got something useful out of today's meeting. We will, of course, catch up in the Facebook group during the week. If you want to come and join us in the Facebook group, it's A Course in Miracles with Keith. Just make sure you agree to the group rules at the time of joining, and we'll let you in because we won't if you don't. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your Sunday and share your identity. God bless.